Sure. To discuss, we're joined by the Masimanyane Women's Rights International founder and director, Dr. Lesley-Anne Foster. Doctor, thank you for being with us. The school has not been named yet, and obviously young, even perpetrators, need some sort of protection. While we are still finding out answers here, surely this points to the problem of violence and the early sexualization of children.
Yes, I think it's very true. What bothers me about this case, it's such a sad case for everyone, but particularly for the girls and the boys involved, because there were some boys that were coerced into raping other boys and other girls in this case, which is really, really horrendous. What this points to is the early sexualization of children, as you said. That happens through television, it happens through their exposure to pornography, and also what they witness within the community. And, you know, as Mr. Majola said, we have failed the children on many levels because we should have protective mechanisms in place within schools. We should be holding sessions with girls. I think the problem here was that no one expects children of 7 years old, 8, 9, 10, to be involved so early in cases of, continuous rape, because this didn't happen once, but it happened several times. So I think that's, the real issue here is how we prevent this. And it also points to the fact that, within our society, girls are not viewed as having any value. And so boys pick that up. And I think that's an important aspect, is that boys pick this up very early. And it's a pattern that will continue throughout their lives, to be abusive towards women. So the big question is, how do we correct this? How do we change this around? The first thing is to protect the survivors. You've spoken very, repeatedly that we have to protect their identity. So we can't name the school or the community and so forth. That's unfair. But their lives are tainted. Their mental health challenges are going to be enormous. And the reason why they haven't reported it is out of fear, not anything else, but fear of what that could mean. They probably were threatened. And I think everybody in this case needs repeated, continuous mental health support. And I think they'll get counseling for a while. And then once the, all the drama around this has eased off, they won't continue to get that support. And that's my biggest concern, is how do we continue to give them psychological support so that they can recover? It's going to be a long process, and then heal from the trauma. And it's going to impact their lives forever. So that's really challenges that we as a society have to face.
So by all accounts, the school didn't know that this was happening, but we heard from that mother, multiple rapes per day. So surely the school has to answer questions not only about educating kids, but where was this happening? How was it allowed to happen? What was being done to protect the children?
Yeah, it's a very good question to have, because I think notoriously boarding schools over decades are places that are unsafe for the children that are in them. I mean, this goes back decades and decades. It's happened over many continents. We remember the Magdalene sisters in Ireland. And we know that in boarding schools across the country, even in boarding schools where there are children with disabilities, rapes happen, and there is not enough protective mechanisms in place, or even a commitment to ensuring that the children are safe. The easy route is just to ignore whatever one sees or hears, and to not actually deal with it. I mean, in this case, these children are so little, they're babies, and they've had to suffer such enormous trauma. So the teachers definitely have to be held accountable. The principal has to be held accountable, because there should have been protective measures in place. And I wonder how extensive this is in this particular hostel, how extensive it is that, the rape has occurred. We've come to hear about this, but are there more? That's the big question that we have to ask ourselves, and that the school has to answer now. And what is the school going to do moving forward? I mean, the children need protection, the ones that are the survivors, but then also the balance, or the rest of all the children in school are going to be traumatized just hearing about these cases. So there's also a need to put in a mechanism to hear from children what they've seen, what they know, and how they feel about it. This has to be an entire school intervention, with the first focus being on the rape survivors and then moving through the school and working through all of this. And sometimes these things are just taken, lightly. Oh, they're children, they'll get over it. Children never get over the trauma that they suffer in childhood. That's a reality. We need to take this seriously and to put all the mechanisms in place. And I'm certainly going to send our staff and people from our Women's Equelo network who work in that area and who probably know what's happened to pick up on some of those measures and to see how they can, help the school in addressing these issues.
Yeah, and I hope we can chat again. I mean, reportedly, the oldest boy would rape the other boys and tell them to sexually assault each other. And the girls, that's a 13-year-old. So you also have to ask about his ability to reform and his future. But we have to leave it there for time.